Chapter 20 Waking Up. When they had woken up that morning, neither Kenny, Sarah, nor Simon could remember anything they had dreamt the night before, so they had no memory of what had been happening in Nubaganda. Dreams can be like that. Sometimes you can remember every single detail that made it seem so real. Other times you can only remember small fragments, but when you try to put them together or explain it to someone else, it makes absolutely no sense. Then other times you can remember nothing and your memory is completely blank. Children's memories of Nubaganda were exactly like their memories of dreams. They could remember everything, parts of it, or absolutely nothing. This is one of the reasons why Nubaganda has been kept a secret for so long. It was there, but not often remembered. So when Simon, Kenny, and Sarah woke up in the morning, they just did what they normally did. They had no knowledge of all the things that had been happening in the land of dreams and the dangers they were facing. Simon opened his eyes. His head felt fuzzy and everything looked like a blur. The last thing he could remember was being under the ice and trying to save Lily, then a huge meteor falling from the sky. He blinked and rubbed his eyes. He tried sitting up, but he didn't have the energy. There, came a soothing voice. Mum? He asked, feeling confused. He paused, trying to gather his thoughts. He opened his eyes as wide as he could. Some call me Mum, but I am not your Mum, the voice replied, as a tentacle carrying a flannel floated in the air. What? Simon exclaimed, jumping up. As soon as he was on his feet, he felt his legs give way. Another tentacle reached out to stop him from falling to the ground and directed him back to the bed. You don't have the strength. Simon looked in the direction of the voice. His eyes widened even more. A shiny silver creature with 7 tentacles and a human-like torso stood there. It had a huge smiling mouth and 3 eyes on its bald, circular head. Who are you? Simon asked with hesitation. I'm Scepter, the creature replied with a soft voice. Oh, because of your 7 tentacles? Yes, she replied, and this is my home. Simon looked around. It was a cozy space with a bed, a table, a small stove, and other homely sorts of things. Then he realized the walls made up a dome. And where are we? He asked. We're underwater, Scepter replied, stirring a pot on the stove with 1 tentacle and grabbing 2 bowls with another. How? Simon began. How about we stop with the questions until you have had something to eat? She asked. Simon nodded. Then we can talk about what happened, what you are doing, and where you need to go, she continued with a warm, motherly smile. Okay, Simon said, laying his head back onto the pillow. Thank you, he said softly. That's all right, my darling. What would this place be if we didn't show a little kindness? After the soup had finished cooking and Simon had managed to get out of bed, they sat down at the table and ate vegetable soup with some bread Scepter had made earlier that morning. Simon told her about their arrival in Nubaganda and also about Sarah, Kenny, and Lily. He told her about the creatures they had seen so far and what he knew of the invaders. He didn't mention the Orbs as he wasn't entirely sure whether to trust her. Scepter told him about how she had found him sinking to the bottom of the lake, unconscious but still as a seal. She had brought him inside, and after a few hours he had changed into a young boy. Simon asked how he was able to breathe down here and how the dome worked, hovering in the dark depths. She explained how she had the ability to breathe out oxygen and explained the science of the dome. She also told him about her life, how she had had children and grandchildren. She told him about the years gone by and what life was like for her kind, with the ability to live both on land and in water. However, because of this unique ability, many never trusted them, and so they didn't fit in with either. Because of this, they spent most of their time keeping to themselves. She also told him about the pollution, the name the creatures of Nubaganda had given to the invaders. This was because after their arrival, they had started to poison the lands, the water, and the air. They had upset the balance of what Nubaganda was before their arrival. They were only focused on power and controlling everyone else, but the creatures of Nubaganda just wanted to live their lives in peace. Before, everything had an order and there was harmony. Everything worked. She told him of how the pollution had arrived and slowly conquered different corners of the land. Their darkness was spreading and entire communities were either wiped out or moved on. Everyone had started to lose hope. Then there were whispers of the 3 night wanderers that had arrived, the 3 that were written in the ancient texts that would save Nubaganda and restore it to peace. "And now you're here in my home," Septa finished with a smile. "Would you like some more?" she asked. "No, I'm stuffed," Simon said with a grin. "I should think so, after 6 bowls." Simon's thoughts turned back to Kenny and Sarah. "I need to find Kenny and Sarah, and also Lily," Simon said. "Well, if it was the pollution and the wolves, they would have taken Lily to the ice palace," Septa explained. "It's easy enough to get there." "How?" "There are underwater caves and tunnels that connect most of Nubaganda, so it's easy enough to get from one place to another if you know where you're going," Septa explained as she got up from the table and started tidying things away. "I hope Kenny and Sarah are all right," Simon said with a sigh. "I don't know where they would have gone." "I'm sure we'll find them," Septa said reassuringly. "Nubaganda is full of all different creatures, but most of them have a good heart. And pretty much all of them would have heard about you 3. But first things first," she continued. "You need to make sure that you are all right. You were knocked unconscious, and changing in and out of animal form takes a lot of energy." "I'll be fine," he replied, knowing that he had to go and find them as soon as possible. Septa looked at him with a warm smile and said, "Well, we better get going then." She started gathering things for their journey, tidying up as she went. Simon stood there, unsure of what to do with himself. When they were ready, they made their way over to a small opening in the floor where they could get into the water. Simon thought about transforming, but frustratingly, nothing happened. "It's not working," he said. "Just relax," Septa assured him. "Take some deep breaths and it will happen." Simon took a deep breath, then let it out. Then he took another. As he was about to take the third, he started changing into the seal. He looked up at Septa. "See, I told you," she said with a smile. "Now, follow me." She jumped into the water, and they swam through the dark depths. Septa's tentacles glowed just enough for Simon to follow. Simon also realized that the silver metal cap on his head was glowing ever so slightly. They swam through the open waters of the lake, then through tunnels and narrow passageways. On the way there were a few other strange creatures swimming about, but they didn't have time to stop. Once or twice, Simon looked to the side and saw a dark shadow that made him nervous. He then sped up and got as close as he could to Septa. He didn't like the dark. Septa started swimming upwards to the surface. Their heads popped out of a hole. They were on the edge of a vast plain of ice. "That's the ice palace, up there," Septa said, pointing in the direction of the large mountain of rock that stood towering above the ice in the distance. On top of it, the ice palace sat, shimmering in the sun. "Can we climb up the side?" Simon asked, already thinking of how they could get in. "That is the only way. The front gates are too heavily guarded," Septa replied, scanning the distance. Let's get as far as we can. They both dove beneath the ice again and swam as close as they could to the edge of where the ice met the rock. They climbed up onto the ice. Simon changed back into being a boy and walked onto the solid rock. Simon looked up. It was going to be a long climb. Septa started climbing, using her 7 legs to nimbly pull herself up. What are you doing? Simon asked. He had thought Septa was only going to take him as far as she could, and then he would be on his own. We're going to save your friends, Septa replied. I thought, Simon began. Come on, I can give you a lift, she said, stretching one of her tentacles down and then lifting him up onto her back. There we go, she said when he was secure. Then she started to climb. When they were about 3/4 of the way up, Septa stopped for a moment to rest. As they were resting, they heard a rumble in the distance. Simon turned and looked towards the noise. He could see a large wave of white advancing towards them, and a cloud of snow and ice spraying up into the air. He squinted and tried to look more closely. What's that? He asked. Septa looked and immediately knew who it was. It's the Yuppies, she said excitedly. I wonder why they have emerged. I never knew there were so many of them.